What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ben Thomas Show. Thanks for coming back today, guys. I'm pretty excited because it's Friday, and of course, I'm getting caught up. We got to talk a little bit about the pre-order window that's open for the Omega Red figure from X-Men, the animated series, over there at Mondo Toys. We're going to talk about some brief history of the character. We're going to dive into my thoughts on the figure, of course, and then I'm going to pose the question back off to you folks. So, if you guys like the video, hit the like button for me, smash the subscribe if you're new to the Ben Thomas Show, and let's get into it.
I give you Ben Thomas Showtime. Here we go.
The leaders are weak. They restrained me once they lost the Empire. Now they've brought me back, a living weapon they once had grown to fear. The Empire shall live. They shall not. Said by Omega Red upon awakening from cryosleep. So Omega Red's a really cool character, especially in X-Men the Animated Series, which is where I've got the majority of my exposure to the character. Naturally, of course, he appears in the comics as well, and I do believe there is some divergences in his storyline between comics and what we got a chance to see on screen with X-Men the Animated Series back in the day. But some brief background first on the character. So Omega Red was made into a living weapon by the generals of the Soviet Union, using the super soldier serum that made Captain America. Now, during the Cold War, he fought Team X up until he was frozen in cryogenic suspension. However, following the collapse of the Soviet Union, some radical generals, including those who sealed him away in the first place, planned to free him in order to retake their sovereign nations and reform the Union. Now, Omega Red successfully retook the Republic's capital via blitzkriegs, pitting any and all survivors in gulags, and when he and Darkstar were sent to exile the members of the Russian parliament, he attempted to kill them instead, wanting to rule the sovereign union himself. Now, Omega Red provided more than a match for the combined forces of the Colossus and X-Men, including his old enemy, Wolverine. Now, Darkstar had turned against Red after seeing what he did to the Russian people, so shortly after, he was defeated by the combined efforts of Colossus and Storm, the latter of whom summoned Snow to freeze him. He was then recaptured and put back into suspended animation. Later, he was released by the US military, who gave him a mission to infiltrate a nuclear submarine sunken into the Pacific Ocean and to bring it back. Omega Red agreed to their terms so long as Storm and Wolverine could go with him. The three found the sub and boarded it. However, Red, who had a free switch implanted into his head, had managed to rip it out. He tried to use the sub's arsenal of warhead missiles to destroy 15 of the world's largest cities, while also getting his revenge on the two X-Men for freezing him twice. Now, I will say that fortunately, his plan was stopped by Beast and Rogue using depth charges from the Blackbird. And then he sank along with the sub after trying to destroy Hawaii in a fit of anger, likely stuck at the bottom of the sea for the rest of eternity. Now, his powers and abilities are difficult to be certain whether or not Omega Red's superhuman abilities are due to his experiments performed on him by the Soviet Union scientists, or if some of them may have been the result of originally being a mutant. But Omega Red definitely owes his primary weapon to the Super Soldier program, a pair of carbonadium tendrils implanted in the undersides of each forearm. They're grafted to his nervous system, so he's capable of extending them up to a distance of several meters or several feet, depending on which country you're in, and can control them as extensions of his body or retract them entirely into his limbs. These ultra-durable tendrils can be used to whip, grapple, crush, strangle, disarm, or ensnare foes. They can also be sent burrowing underneath the floor of the ground or launch a surprise attack. Once he has seized an opponent with his tendrils, Omega Red can drain their life force, weakening them and healing any damage he may have suffered. Omega Red may or may not have some level of superhuman strength. Omega Red may have either healing factor, akin to the possessed by Wolverine and Sabretooth, or alternatively, a form of superhuman durability. During his first appearance, when Wolverine describes his first encounter with the Soviet bioweapon, a scene of Wolverine's claws glancing harmlessly off Omega Red's skin overlays Wolverine's proclaiming, and worst of all, nothing hurts him. For extra protection, Omega Red's trademark battle suit is customized set of body armor, which is also made from carbonadium. Now, with regards to the Mondo figure here that we've been looking at while we've been talking about the brief history as well, I gotta say, this looks like a pretty awesome offering. Now, this is a Mondo exclusive figure and is limited to an edition size of 1,000 pieces. You can get up to 3 pieces per household if you decide you want to rock one and stock one, but keep in mind, this is at the price point of $225, so it's not necessarily cheap, but this is still one of the lower cost offerings we've seen through the X-Men the Animated Series lineup from Mondo Toys, which I appreciate. I appreciate they're keeping that cost still at bay, I want to say, at this point. Now, what does this figure come with? It looks like he comes here with the Omega Red figure himself, of course. We get one set of large bendable tentacles, we get one set of small bendable tentacles, we get the angry swappable portrait, we get the smiling swappable portrait, the neutral swappable portrait, one set of expressive hands, and one set of fists. In terms of offerings, we've definitely seen more from some of the other figures and some of the other lines. Even in the He-Man line, some of those figures come with a crazy amount of accessories, but you do tend to pay the ticket price for more. I think this is exactly what this guy needed to come with. I think if they'd given some reference point in the figure offering to Wolverine or to Storm, I think that could have been cool, especially since they're such dramatic foes for him. But I think it's okay that they didn't necessarily offer it at the same time. I think in terms of the way the figure looks, I love the coloration of the outfit. I love the way that they've presented this figure. Even though this figure has joints, I do find that based on the way it's painted and constructed, it's actually kind of hard to see it, which means you're getting maximum dynamic posability out of the figure, while also having an aesthetically pleasing looking character in your collection. Now, this might not be the figure you've been waiting for specifically, but when we look at the history of Omega Red, we look at the history he has with Wolverine and Storm. If I were to pair this in my collection and I didn't want to collect the whole line, I think at the very least I would try and pair him against Wolverine. I think that would be a really cool display if you could only justify 2 of these bad boys. I think my favorite facial expression of the 3 head sculpt is definitely kind of that sad pouty face that he's got there, or that kind of grimacing smile. I like that one as well, and that's reminiscent of the television show for me, so I think I'd probably display the smiling one most. But I do like all 3 offerings. I do like the box art that it comes with. Again, I know we don't display the boxes for the most part, but I do appreciate that they actually put some time and attention into the artistry of the box. I really like what I'm seeing with him paired up against Wolverine, kind of like we discussed earlier. That was the other figure I'd pair him with. I think that looks real good together. Otherwise, could this guy be displayed on his own? I would say yeah, still, absolutely. This could have absolutely been one of your favorite characters from X-Men the Animated Series. He always struck interest in me, even though when I was a kid, I didn't really understand the implications of the Soviet Union, or the fact that he was essentially a Russian equivalent to a Captain America. This is a character I think that they could technically adapt into a live action series. If we get to see X-Men in live action like we've been teased, I'm not sure who I'd fan cast in the role. Who would you guys put as Omega Red in live action? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, when I get this figure, I am on the fence still at this time. I've got He-Man and Skeletor on the way. I've been considering the Beast Man, so still a little on the fence with the Masters of the Universe line. With the X-Men line, I still think I'd want the X-Men proper first before I'd collect the villains, but this, if I wanted a villain in the collection, would definitely resonate with me. I really think the character's cool, and I do think that even just paired with Wolverine could be a wicked display without having to commit to a whole line of figures. At this time, I am going to wait though. Now, because this is a limited offering, I am gambling with that. I honestly don't know if I'll miss the opportunity to pick this guy up. If I do, I think I would just have to be okay with it and move on. Right now, in the world of 6-scale collecting, there is so much cool stuff. And I understand that a lot of us are starting to get, up to a certain extent, a little overwhelmed by it. So sometimes we do have to pick and choose our battles a little bit. We can appreciate cool stuff like this from afar and not necessarily buy it. But if this is the character for you, if Omega Red hit you in the nostalgic feels when you saw this guy pop up on the pre-order and you're picking him up, you gotta let me know in the comments down below so I can celebrate it for you guys. And I would love to figure out a way on the Ben Thomas Show to see some of your collections, because so many of you reach out to me on a regular basis and tell me about those collections. I think it would be cool to see that. So stay tuned for ways we can connect in the future as the Ben Thomas Show YouTube channel grows. But guys, that's my take on the figure. I'd love to know what you guys think about the figure in the comments down below. If you like the little history sections about these characters before the preview, let me know as well. I want to make sure these videos are improving slowly over time and that you guys are enjoying it. We are on our way to 2.5K subscribers. If you guys are just listening in for the first time, hit the like button for me if you can. It always helps the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got lots more planned, lots of fun to look forward to. And of course, collecting never stops, it never sleeps, and there's always going to be cool shit to talk about down the line. So I will catch you guys on the next figure preview video. Thanks for watching, everybody.
I'll be back.